Now here again is Edward Beck. Terrific message, Edward.
Thank you.
You say in your message that hope is what is still there when our worst fears have been realized, or that it is the thing that keeps us going when nothing else can. And your wonderful example of your loving mother, even with humor in the face of brain surgery, sustained by faith. What about your own personal journey to the priesthood? You're a passionist priest in New York. What are those moments of exile that you recall where hope has endured and gotten you through?
Well, you know, sometimes, as I'm sure you might imagine, life as a priest has its ups and downs, and it has in recent years, especially with the whole scandal that we went through as a Catholic Church. And I think to know that God is in the midst of even all of that, and the hope that we're going to get through this, and somehow we're going to come out the other side better and stronger. And I think I needed that spark inside, that hope to say these are bad times in many ways, but there's good here, and there's good to come from this. And it's just a challenge to live that every day.
The kind of hope that's grounded in God, not just wishful thinking or optimism.
Yeah, I think it's that human spark.
Well, I wanted to follow up on that too. It's so easy, it seems today, to be kind of cynical. We have so much information going on. Where do you see hope in your work, in your retreats, with people that you interact with, or where do you access it in yourself to go about our daily process of that?
Well, you know what I'm always amazed at? I give retreats around the country in parishes, and I'll preach at the weekend masses, and I'll think, will anyone show up for the retreat? And I've done the best I can to make this interesting and exciting. And Sunday night, I'm nervous, thinking, you know, I'm going to be here alone, and suddenly, all these people start to trickle in, and the church is filled, and I think they could be doing anything else tonight, but they're here for retreat because they're hungry spiritually. They want to grow in a deeper level and deeper way with God. And that gives me hope that I'm not in this alone, that there are people who really take hold in faith and want to deepen it. And it's just inspirational to me to see that.
That's great.
Well, you are inspirational to all of us, and in the wider community, Edward. You are a maverick priest. You're immersed in media efforts and television series and screenplays and TV pilots. What's that about? What's that connection between your ministry as a priest and the media?
I don't know about maverick priest. I see the headline,
Well.
you know, maverick priest. I mean, that's an interesting way to put it. But I suppose in some ways, sure,
kind of ministry.
and to be involved in media. I've just really accepted the vision that we need to do this. What you do here, and we as a Catholic Church and the other churches need to be involved in mass communication, because that's where people live today. They live on the internet, they live on the television, you know, they live on the radio, and why not use that as an avenue to bring this good word and to bring this message? I can give retreats all over the country for a couple of years and never reach the people that I might reach on a television show. And so we have to be conversant with that whole group, I think.
I couldn't agree more. Some of the other faith traditions do the multimedia experience very well, and I've seen their congregations grow exponentially because of that media outreach on a number of different levels. So it's fascinating to watch, and it's, as a Catholic myself, great to hear you speak about wanting to move in that direction, because we have such a tremendous tradition that we love to not fall back on, but help support us, but to take it into the 21st century. I think people like yourself are, you know, helping lead the way in that regard. So.
And I do think other Christian denominations have really done that in a very good way and formative way, and we're kind of lagging behind. We have been. I mean, everyone remembers Fulton Sheen.
Yes.
You know, but
absolutely.
I mean, that was the 1950s, right?
Yeah.
And who has kind of stepped up and, you know, replaced Fulton Sheen? Not to replace him, but to say, you know, this is a presence and a message that needs to be kept alive.
I know you're not going to give us the scoop on your screenplay. I know you're not going to do that.
I'll give you a little bit.
Well, I thought we could get a bit. But tell us, what makes you a screenplay writer? What's that about?
You know, after writing 3 books, the challenge was, what do I do next? And a lot of what I've seen is mass media taking hold, like The Passion of the Christ. And recently we had the movie The Nativity. You know, these are studio-produced films that are finding an audience. They're going to make a movie now of Anne Rice's Christ Out of Egypt. $40 million budget for a movie about Jesus. You know, a mass-release film. So I'm thinking, well, if I'm a writer and I want to get the message out, it's all in the writing, it's all in the screenplay, it's what people say and how these characters take hold. So I've decided that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to get that message out through writing and do it in film and television.
Your first book, God Underneath, the one that President Clinton read. What do you think it was that drew him to that book, and other readers of that book? What is that?
I think it was the fact that as a Roman Catholic priest, I was very honest in that book. I was very self-revelatory. I didn't hold back. And there were pluses and minuses to that. I also took some heat for that. But I think I told my story in a very truthful way. And I think people wanted to get inside the mind and the life of a Roman Catholic priest. And that book helped them to do it. It was a very personal book. And I think the warts were very evident. And I don't think I was afraid to show them. And I think that's what connected with people.
What do you mean, the warts?
Well, my own weaknesses, my own struggles with my journey of, that the road to priesthood hasn't been always easy, and it hasn't been...
Were you kicking and screaming all the way?
Well, I was doing other things in my life. I was working on Wall Street at the time, and, I was dating at the time, and I thought, I had a different path for my life, and yet I had this sense that I couldn't do this the rest of my life for some reason. Right. And there was this nagging that I had to do something that connected more spiritually. I didn't know if it would have to go all the way to priesthood, kind of the other extreme with, but that's what wound up happening, and there was struggle to that. There's still struggle to that. I mean, I'm very happy.
Isn't that kind of resistance a part of the prophetic?
I guess it is. But we all struggle with even that part, right? I mean, we don't want to
or the cost of discipleship.
Yeah, or the cost of discipleship.
I wanted to circle back to our theme today, hope, a little bit. And I wonder, you call out an interesting example for yourself. You were reaching out or yelling out to God in a time of real need. And it seems like that's when we call on God for hope most of the time. But how do we infuse that in our daily lives more often to live a more God-filled, positive, for lack of a better word, experience? And I'm sure you address this in many of the stories in God Underneath as well.
I think it's that spark that we each have inside that you just don't let go out. You ever meet somebody who you just feel has let it go out? There's no light in their eyes. They're just kind of flat. I was watching, recently, Jennifer Hudson, who's from Chicago, the dream girl, and she's come from rather poor circumstances here in Chicago, and now she's winning all these awards, and she's the toast of the town. And she keeps talking about God, though. She never gave up hope that she would succeed in this. She was kicked off American Idol. They didn't want her there. And now she's probably going to win an Academy Award. And she just didn't give up. Now, I mean, that's a celebrity example of it. But I think there is that spark inside that says, I can do this. I can become who God wants me to become if I give myself over to it.
You're using the word spark a couple of times. Living a life of hope abundantly maybe is related to that. Maya Angelou says to survive is important, but to thrive is elegant. How do you think about that, and how do you counsel or minister to people whose child has died?
I think the first thing it's important to do in those circumstances is to not deny the experience, to be with them in it. Don't say, oh, it's okay, or you'll get over it real fast, or, God had a reason for this. I don't believe any of that. I believe be with the person in the pain of it. Show them that, yeah, it's terrible, it's awful, but you know what, it's not the end of your life. And somehow you will get through this, and you'll come out the other side, and your life will go on, and it'll be forever altered. But you'll still find happiness in your life, and there still will be something to hope for. I just think it's not denying the experience and then saying, but that's not all you are. It's a bad part of what happened to you, but there's something else for you too.
We've got about a minute left. Edward, what are some of your hopes for this coming year that you'd like to see move forward in your work or on a personal level?
Well, I'd like to finish that screenplay that I talked about. I mean,
and you
that would
said
be
you'd tell us a
something.
little bit about it.
Well, it's just based on a parish in Hell's Kitchen in the 1940s, and it's an interesting story about who comes through that parish and how it's changed. And we'll see if I can do it justice, but I'm going to work on that.
We wish you luck with that.
Thank you. And I'm going to continue to preach parish retreats and missions around the country and try to make the word evident through that ministry, and do a lot of traveling there, and just kind of continue doing what I do and hope that it makes a difference for people.
And you have to tell us your mother's name before we end this.
Geraldine McGinnis.
Bless you.
Wonderful. Thanks for being a light, and a spark for us today. We're always glad to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, really.
All right.